This is one in a series of videos we're producing to show how to use the demonstrations that are packaged with Dynamic Widgets. In this particular video, we're going to spend a little more time doing a complete setup, but in subsequent videos, we're just going to spend more time just showing you the demos and what they illustrate and how you can use them. To start with, packaged with the application, which is called RB Dynamic Widgets, we have several folders with several items in them. You'll find a folder called Demonstration Widgets, and under here are all of the different demonstrations that we have. Today we're going to focus on the progressive search demo. And the first thing to note is within this folder there is an HTML file that has a set of instructions for each and every demonstration. So this particular one is called Progressive Search Demo, and it gives you a description of this demonstration, how to set it up, how to use it, and some information on how it was designed and what are some of the key points or the way in which we designed this and how you might use that. The actual components for this particular demonstration are under a folder called Progressive Search Demo. And you'll see 3 web reports in this case that are going to be wired into a perspective. We'll now proceed to set up the perspective. Within a perspective, and here's one we've started, you'll find in the left panel, in addition to the usual widgets, there'll be a section called Ravenblack Dynamic Widgets. For this video and this demonstration, we're going to set up 3 of these. And I'm just going to drag them into this grid like that. When you look at dynamic widgets, you'll see a lot of it looks very much like an HTML content widget. But there are a few unique fields we'll talk about now. For this demo, we're not going to worry about any of these upper fields. We're just going to leave them alone. We're going to leave the header on and the scroll in place. But for each of these particular widgets, we're going to set them to initially be invisible. This might not make much sense, but when you see the demo in action, hopefully it will make more sense. The next thing that's unique about dynamic widgets is you assign an ID for each one. This is a bit like an address that you can use in your programming so you can control and do things with each widget. You can call these anything you want. For these purposes, I'm going to call this one Search Widget, Results Widget, and Details. You could just as easily call them R1, R2, R3, but I'm making this a little bit more verbose. The next thing we have to do is to assign web reports to this. And I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead and assign these. I'm not going to do these in real time, but basically you'll navigate to Dynamic Widgets, Demonstration Widgets, Progressive Search Demo. And for the first widget, we're going to assign this web report. And then I'm going to go through and assign these other 2 web reports. Now that I've assigned web reports to these 3 widgets, there's one final thing we're going to do. This is something you don't always have to do, but we're doing it for example in this case. The first widget, as we'll see in a moment when I show you some of the code, is going to actually control these other 2 widgets. These 2 here are largely receptacles. They have some HTML in them, but they don't have any JavaScript in them. So all of this is going to be run from the first widget. And this is one of a few different valid approaches. In this case, we're going to assign to the first widget, we're going to assign some constants, and it will use those constants to refer to these 2 widgets. You can use these identifiers literally, but there are some scenarios where using constants is a good idea. And here within the code itself, it's always going to refer to resource 2. And this allows for web reports code as well to be portable between different applications. In this case, resource 2 is going to point to the results widget. And resource 3 is the identifier we're going to use to refer to the details widget. Case isn't actually important here. I'm just trying to be consistent. Having put all of this together, I can now update the perspective and it's ready to go. We've already assigned it to a folder that we'll use for demonstration. I'm not going to go into depth with the code here, and that's not the intent of these videos, but I will show you briefly that within this widget, all of the styles are defined in here. And then we have code within here that is going to refer to resource 3 and resource 2. And it will use this constant syntax here, which will automatically grab the correct identifier for those widgets. So this code is now independent of what the actual IDs are actually set at in the perspective. Now let's take a look at the demo in action. But before we do that, I'm just going to have a quick look at the perspective. I've added in a node browsing table just to add something to the perspective for when we run it. So when we actually run it, our new widgets, our dynamic widgets, are all hidden at the start. And this is entirely optional, but in this fictitious case, we have a scenario where the users have a normal folder browse and they have been given a shortcut, which is Alt-S. So when they deploy that, our search solution pops up. You'll note that it also shrunk down the node browsing table. And that's something you can also do optionally if you want to change the way the real estate is used. We're able to control other widgets on the page with our code in addition to the dynamic widgets themselves. In this case, we're just going to type in a simple test into this. This is a very simple form. Obviously, these can be completely different sizes. We have examples that are full width with a lot of different filter conditions. This is purely just for demonstration purposes. And having run for a few seconds, it's now launched another widget, or in fact revealed this other widget with the results inside. You'll notice some of the things we can control are which options and icons appear at the top and what they do. Also, we can control these icons over here. The third thing we're going to do here is picking one of these particular examples. We'll click select, and here's a third widget, again with a different icon. In this case, we've used some of the same control icons here. Ultimately, this could have all kinds of information. We've just provided a bit of detail on that item. Each one of these can be controlled, maximized, closed, maximized, collapsed, and so on. And when we're ready, this option here, we've wired this up so it will actually clear any widgets that are on the page and put us back to normal, full size. Just to wind up this video, we'll do a quick review. In this particular demonstration, we saw an approach to using multiple widgets on a page, having one act as a controller, opening and closing and revealing widgets. Each one of those, which is basically a container or a reviewer of sorts. We looked at the ability to resize other widgets on the page, to reveal or hide, open, close, and to create custom icons to control each widget, and that we have complete control of what's inside each widget. Collectively, rather than having a single web report running in isolation in a particular widget, we can have multiple web reports interacting and sharing things and creating a meaningful application. Thanks for watching.